think on the top.
Janak, Janak.
It will not
Hello, Fali, how are you?
Hello, Janak. Good to see you.
Good
to see you.
On top. So all of them will show me a stop.
Hello, Mr. Venugopal.
Hello, Janak, I'm not.
Namaskar, Parik
Where are
sir.
you?
Hello.
I'm in Bombay,
Hello.
sir. Bombay.
That I know. I know that you're in Bombay. In which case?
Good afternoon, Ali. Good afternoon.
Hello, Mr. Nariman. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Nice to see you, sir.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello, Fali.
Good evening, sir.
Hello.
Good evening, Fali.
Hello.
How are you?
Good evening,
Hello.
Pinky.
Good evening,
Good
everybody.
Good evening. How are you, Zina?
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Zina. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Where?
Hi, Venu.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Oh, Zina.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, Lalit.
Hello, Gina.
How are you, Lalit?
Hi. The children are all joining.
Oh, right.
Hello.
Pinky.
Oh, Pinky.
Hi, Zain auntie.
Good evening, Attorney.
Hi, dear. Hi.
Good evening.
Hey, hi. Hi, Pinky.
Hi, Fali.
Hi.
Did you get my letter?
Yes.
Huh?
Letter मिला है.
Yeah, thank you.
Well,
Where is Janak, I see?
Hello, किधर है?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Hello, Venu.
Janak,
Yes, sir.
glad you're wearing a jacket.
I'm taking after you, sir.
Wearing a jacket.
He said he's taking after you.
He's taking it up.
After you. He's taking after you.
He said so. I didn't hear it.
Good evening, Arvind.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening.
Hello.
hi, everybody. There's Zia.
Hello,
Hi,
Jia.
good evening, Zia. Good evening.
Hello, Zia.
Hi, everybody.
You can.
Thank you so much.
Very good evening, ma'am. Very good.
Unmute. Did you unmute it? Just speak. Just speak.
Hello, Lalit.
Hello, Lalit.
Hello. Yes.
Hi,
Pajama.
Majama.
Yusuf.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Good. Hi, Rashida.
Hi.
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 Hello,
Hi. How lovely.
Hi. Namaskar.
How nice. Thank you. Lovely.
Sir, namaskar.
Namaskar.
Thank you, Rashida, for your lovely email. Thank you.
Oh my, you're very welcome.
Hi, Rashid auntie. Hi, Yusuf uncle.
Good evening, everyone. Can we start with good evening?
Good evening.
Can we start, please?
Hi, KKV.
Yes, Chandok sir.
Good evening, everyone. Can we start with the program, please?
Yes, I think we can.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening, respected seniors, colleagues, everyone. Good evening. I am Amarjeet. I am the Joint General Secretary. Anandita is the Secretary, but due to COVID, she's down. So she's unable to attend today. So I'll be doing the compare today for this gathering where we are paying our condolences to late Soli Sorabji, the former Attorney General for India. Everyone knows him very well. I have also been informed that family of late Soli Sorabji is present. I welcome them. And before I open the floor and I invite my speakers, can I just give a little bit of brief background about Soli Sorabji's association with the Bar Association of India. He was the General Secretary from the year 1972 to 75 and Joint General Secretary from 75 to 78. He was Vice President from 78 to 2000 and Honorary Chairman ex officio being the AG from 2000 to 2004. Again, Vice President from 2008 to 2014 and Member Board of Advisors from 2014 till date, till the date of his demise, which is 30th April. So without further ado, may I request our Attorney General for India, ex-officio chairman and former president of Bar Association, Mr. K.K. Venugopal, to speak, give few words on his condolences for Solis Rao. 1 second. Can you unmute, please, sir? We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this is indeed a sad day, and it is only in the fitness of things that all of us should gather here to pay homage to the memory of Solis Sorabji, who was a personal friend of mine, and my memories of Soli go back to 1979, when immediately after the emergency, he had come over in 1977 itself as an additional Solicitor General. I followed 2 years later in 1979, and I was alone at that time, staying in the Tamil Nadu house, and he decided that I should spend some time with the family, and he and Zina would invite me for a dinner. And I remember the dansak which Zina made, excellent. I remember it even today. As Additional Solicitors General, the cases were marked to Soli as ASG 1, to me as ASG 2. And we had an exciting time in the aftermath of the emergency, fighting the cases as a team. And in historical cases, like Minerva Mills, Mohammed Rao, Bhim Singh, and so on, we had an excellent relationship. And thereafter, I came to know Zia, his daughter, when we went together to the United States in the India-America-US Forum. And there, the judges of the Supreme Court of the United States would invite us into the Supreme Court building. We used to sit in a conference hall and exchange notes and have small discussions on the various cases and so on. And the Chief Justice of India reciprocated the hospitality by inviting the judges of the Supreme Court to visit and participate in exchange of views, which was held in the premises of the Supreme Court of India. Soli was a good friend and a many-splendid being. And it is an impossibility to compress his achievements, his passion for free speech, his love for jazz, all within the span of a few minutes. He was an international personality. And let me give you a few quotes from his eminent friends abroad. Dorothy Nelson, Judge US Supreme Court of Appeal, said, quote, "I was so impressed by his brilliant mind, but even more so by his warm and friendly hospitality." In regard to Soli's presentation on freedom of expression, Justice Kennedy of the US Supreme Court said that it was a superb and thoughtful presentation. Anthony Lester, Lord Lester of Hernhill, Queen's Counsel, said that Soli was renowned for his lifelong pursuit of justice and the pursuit of human rights in India and beyond. And further, quote, "He was an independent and impartial Attorney General, and he is a powerful and principled advocate." That is indeed a very high compliment, because I don't know whether all of us Attorneys General would receive the same compliment of being a highly principled and so on. I hope so. The Right Honorable the Lord Wolfe, former Chief Justice of England and Wales, described Soli as an extraordinary person, a wonderful friend, and a huge personality. Look at the amount of affection that he commanded among the topmost members of the judiciary from other countries. Then closer to home, K.G. Balakrishnan, the Chief Justice, described him as an activist who has been a prominent voice in the defense of the freedom of the press, judicial independence, and the rule of law. He also mentions the fact that Soli acted as a UN special rapporteur and served as a member of several international groups. And to cap all this encomiums, the then Vice President of India, Sri Hamid Ansari, said that Soli personifies professional excellence, depth of scholarship, and diversity of interests that together provide nourishment for the intellect and the soul. What more can a man want in life than the respect and admiration of his fellow beings? And in all this, there is no mention of his first love, namely the love for jazz. Believe me, all this that is being said about Soli is not because he is no more, but because each and every one of the words spoken, qualities described, his contribution to constitutional law and the rule of law, every word of this is the truth and nothing but the truth. I extend my sincere condolences to Zina, to Zia, and the other members of the family. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your kind words. May I request now the President of Bar Association of India, Shri Prashant Kumar, to speak few words. Can you unmute, sir?
All the respected seniors, friends and colleagues, and the family of late Shri Soli Saurabhji. Indeed, the passing away of Shri Saurabhji has been a great blow to the legal profession. Not just in India, internationally, his acumen, fame, and especially his championing of human rights and championing of freedom of press has been a legion. Those of us who had the good fortune of sharing some moments of our life with him in his company while appearing in cases with or against him or on other social occasions, and in my case including quite a few visits outside India as well. Knowing him was a real privilege. Privilege also from the point of view of a young lawyer who did not believe initially that a legend like Mr. Saurabhji will be so informal and will be so readily sharing all the experiences and talking like an equal. He never let you believe that you were someone that has to be junior in profession or something like that. He made you feel at home. His humanity always shined through, and above all, his love for music, his love for good food. When I joined the Bar Association of India, it was such a pleasure to, in various functions, to just be around him and help him with the serving of his food. Because he will invariably ask, Prashant, don't you have any prawns? Or something like that. And we were really blessed. We had our last dinner we hosted from Bar Association on 3rd February 2020, just before the lockdown. And he was very gracious to come in there. Perhaps it was one of the last public functions he attended, because soon after that everything went into a lockdown and even we could not have the joy of celebrating his birthday, though we were all part of celebrating his 50 years of legal profession in India International Center with jazz music and dancing and everything. Whenever we were outside India, he was in his elements. When we were in Hague together to attend some event, so he asked me, Prashant, where are you staying? I said, I'm staying right here in The Hague. He said, are you a fool? Hague is a dead place. You are a young man, you should have stayed in Amsterdam. That's full of life. So it's not only that we have lost a great legal stalwart, we have lost a great human being, a person who was so full of warmth and natural charm that we are all going to miss him. And I had also the privilege of being in Kuala Lumpur along with Mrs. Sorabji, and we were on the dinner table together at the gala dinner, and we had some jokes, we shared some jokes and other things, and we just felt like a family. So I have no more words to express that how we feel today. It's just unbelievable for us to see that he is no longer around us. And no words can be there to give a befitting tribute to such a great personality. So my heartfelt condolences to Madam Zena, to Madam Zia Modi, and all the members of the family. And we will continue to have some of the other events in the memory of Mr. Sorabji, because his is a life not just fully lived, his is a life which is required to be celebrated. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prashantji. Can I request now Shri Janak Dwarka, the senior advocate, to speak few words? Sir, can you unmute yourself? Sir, can you unmute yourself?
Am I audible? Am I audible now?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. Distinguished guests, office bearers of the Bar Association of India, it's indeed a sad day that we have assembled today to mourn the death of Soli Sorabji. I heard the name Soli Sorabji for the first time from my father, who was Soli's contemporary. My father was a member of Mr. R.J. Kola's chamber. Soli was a junior to Kharshedji Baba, and both Mr. Baba and Mr. Kola were two of the many highly successful juniors of Sir Jamshedji Kanga. Similarly, Kharshedji too had many successful juniors like Fali, Soli himself, and Iqbal Chagla. Soli was extremely proud of this legacy and firmly believed that the lessons he learnt from his seniors in the chambers of Sir Jamshedji Kanga, famously known as Chamber Number 1, stood him in good stead throughout his career. I had the opportunity to interact with Soli only a few years later after I started my practice of law and was briefed in matters with or against him in the Supreme Court. He was already a legend by then. The first thing that struck you when you interacted with Soli was his boyish smile and the twinkle in his eyes. Working with him, I discovered why Soli was so successful as a lawyer and what made Soli enjoy the enviable reputation that he did. Extremely painstaking, insisting on reading his briefs cover to cover by himself. He was very thorough in his research and knowledge of the law. He had a mastery over the facts and expected the same from his team. He had an encyclopedic memory of case law and would invariably be one step ahead in pulling out the relevant judgments on the point in question. He was very hardworking, taking nothing or nobody for granted. He had a keen sense of anticipating what the court or his opponents might ask or say. He was a hard taskmaster without being intimidating. About great men, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow has said, "The heights by great men reached and kept were not attained by sudden flight, but they, while their companions slept, were toiling upwards in the night." Unquote. The respect that Soli commanded in court from the bar and bench alike placed him high above his peers. His advocacy was fluent, persuasive, and firm, without being aggressive. He was polite and courteous towards his colleagues, especially juniors. He treated judges with the utmost deference and respect, which the institution deserved and which was reciprocated from the bench in equal measure towards him. His arguments were laced with witticisms, humor, quotes from famous works of literature and poetry. He made it all look so easy and convincing. It was hard to believe there could be any other point of view. He was a great mentor and a staunch believer in values and traditions, which he has publicly acknowledged he learned from being a part of the original side of the Bombay High Court. He would always encourage juniors and would make it a point to appreciate a good argument made by a junior. I was one of the recipients of one such generous compliment from him when appearing in some matter in the Bombay High Court before Justice A.P. Shah, where he was my opponent. For an upcoming junior like me, these were invaluable lessons on how to do well in the profession and in the art of advocacy. It was only then that I realized what an asset Soli must have been to the team that Nani Palkiwala led in helping the Supreme Court lay down the law on the inviolability of the basic structure of the Constitution. It was Soli's mission, as he was the one, I would say, bore true allegiance to the Constitution in jealously guarding and defending the freedoms guaranteed by the Constitution and helping shape and develop much of the law laid down by the Supreme Court under the Constitution for more than 4 decades since he started practicing in the highest court. He did so even at the risk of losing his own freedom during the dark days of the emergency. It is no wonder then that Soli was appointed the Attorney General for India, a distinction he held twice and which duties he discharged in the true sense and the right spirit. But working with Soli was not without its lighter moments. Being a Parsi, Soli had his own set of idiosyncrasies. Once when I entered his chambers at his Delhi residence and announced that someone had forgotten their handkerchief on one of the visitors' chairs, there was almost an explosion. Soli was paranoid about catching a cold. He jumped up from his chair, almost screamed at me, and forbade me from even touching the wretched piece of cloth, instructing his maid to come there with a pair of tongs and dispose of the kerchief in whatever manner, including if required by burning it to ashes. The maid was also told to sanitize the chair as well as the pair of tongs. Soli was a multifaceted and multi-talented personality. His love for jazz motivated him to help open a chapter of the annual Jazz Yatra in New Delhi. He was fond of horse racing and had a good knowledge of horse flesh. He had a keen sense of observation, which made him a good actor and mimic. Often during the lunch break and social gatherings, he would leave you in splits. His love for literature and poetry and the gift of a good memory gave him an excellent command over the English language, which made Soli's writing scholarly. By his felicity over the English language, he was a formidable adversary. I am acutely aware of the pain and despair that the family has undergone in his passing away, all by himself, in a hospital bed, felled by the dreaded virus. Zia told me that his son Jahangir, who is himself a doctor, missed meeting him by a day. But to the bereaved family, I would like to say that knowing Soli as a man who was always at peace with himself, he probably left with a verse on his lips and a jazz number in his mind as he took his last breath. The family may also take solace in the fact that he led a full life and left an indelible mark for himself. As Longfellow has said, and I quote, "Lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime and, departing, leave behind us footprints on the sands of time." Unquote. To Zina and Zia and the rest of the Sorabji family, my heartfelt condolences. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Can I now request Shri S.S. Naganan, Senior Advocate, to speak a few words, please?
Fellow members of the bar, the family members of our dear respected departed Mr. Soli Sorabji, and friends. It's a very sad occasion for us to meet today, not to mourn the passing of a great human being, but to celebrate his life. Many of the seniors who have had personal experiences with Mr. Sorabji have given you a very brief account of his personality. I did not know him much till the early 2000s, when I set up a small chamber in Delhi and took on rent a place in Niti Bagh. I knew that Mr. Sorabji was living in Niti Bagh, but and I had also briefed him in some matters. One fine morning, on the morning walk, he happened to come to the Niti Bagh park. After a very long time, I had not seen him, and he was a bit wobbly on his feet. And then I went up to him and said, "Sir, how are you doing? You okay? You need any help?" He says, "No, I'm okay. I've just had a knee replacement, but my doctor told me to walk without any help. And so I'm managing, not to worry. I'm still a young man." And after that, he started calling me my walking friend. Of course, I really don't qualify to be called as his friend, but that was his affection. And thereafter, every time we met, he would affectionately talk about Bangalore. And as somebody mentioned, Mr. Janakdas mentioned, how was the race course in Bangalore? How are things moving in Bangalore? And, he had a great affection for Bangalore. He used to come quite often. And whenever he came, we always made it a point to somehow get a few minutes time from him, see him, and maybe, invite him for a drink or, spend an evening with him. And that was such a wonderful experience to have with him. As I entirely agree with what Mr. Dwarkadas has said, he had a kind of what shall we say, a very enigmatic personality who would put anybody at ease. We were all juniors to him, and maybe he was in the bar more number of years than our age, but it never mattered to him. He was always affectionate and very, very friendly. I briefed him in many cases. He came to Bangalore for some of them, and one or two matters in Delhi. And I remember one occasion where in a company matter, we had briefed Mr. Fali Nariman. He was leading us, and he could not appear on one day. So therefore, the client was extremely desperate and wanted us to brief another senior. So I went to Mr. Sorabji and I briefed him, and we had a long conference. He got fully ready with the case. And the next date of hearing, when the matter was listed, as we were entering the court, Mr. Fali Nariman was also there, and Soli was in the corridor. And so in the corridor, I whispered to him to say, "Sir, you are briefed in this case, but Mr. Fali Nariman is also there because he was there right from the beginning." "Oh, is it? It's okay," he said. He came into the courtroom, We were waiting. He went and occupied a chair next to Mr. Nariman's chair, and they were discussing about the case. I could, hear them talking about some principles. It was something to do with operational mismanagement. They discussed. My trepidation was that when these two Athirathis and Maharathis are briefed in a case, what is going to happen to the case as to who is going to actually lead? As soon as the matter was about to reach, Mr. Nariman went up to the bar and he took the first chair. Soli sat next to him and I was sitting next to him. Case was called and Fali stood up to address the court. And, to my great pleasure, Soli was there assisting him as though he was a junior. I was shocked and surprised. I thought he will sit to himself and, allow the case to go on, but that was not him. He didn't make any bones about the fact that Fali was reading us in that case, and he had no qualms about assisting Soli in that sense, in the sense of being next to him and, going along with it. Of course, that case had a checkered end, but what I'm trying to say is that these are human qualities which one is finding it rarer and rarer in the profession today. The bonhomie, the affectionate bonds, the friendship among the bar, we have all become like dog eat dog now. We don't even try to talk to our friends in the bar. And I recalled, many of the seniors, what they taught us. In fact, I recalled one incident where a junior member of the bar was arguing vociferously against the High Court in a matter. My seniors are appearing for the High Court, and he went overboard. After the matter was over, he came outside and he put his arm around the junior and said, see, I've known you, I've known your father was also a lawyer, but this is just one case. So don't go overboard. The seniors in those days, like Mr. Sorabji, were very often like that. They would come and tell the opposite side junior that you've done an excellent job, but this is where you got to put the full stop. And this is how you got to be to the court. I mean, these are invaluable lessons which we learn from people like Soli. I think he's a great personality, and I would not like to dwell much more on his qualities of head and heart, but to show that his love for life, the joie de vivre that he had, is something which is incomparable to any other person who has achieved his heights. Of course, we all know his great performance as a law officer, as Attorney General, but really speaking, his qualities of head and heart actually stand far on a better or a higher pedestal than his achievements in the profession that he had gained. I would only like to conclude by recollecting from Bhagavad Gita one sloka, and it's a very apt sloka. It says, Yad yad acharati shreshtaha tat tat itare janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokaha tad anuvartate. It simply means that whenever there are great people, everybody in society look up to them, and their greatness will make everybody try to emulate them, follow them, and try to go along their footsteps. I think this is an apt description of dear departed Soli, and I really sincerely express my deepest condolences to Mrs. Sorabji, Zia, of course, and her brothers, who will miss him sorely. And we all are going to miss him in the profession. The Bar Association of India is really poorer by his absence, but we look forward to his memory and his the spirit which he maintained in the profession to guide us in the days to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, can I request Mr. Arvind Datar, Senior Advocate, to speak few words? Sir, can you unmute also?
Good evening. I must thank the President of the Bar Association of India to ask me to say a few words. This is indeed an emotional moment. I joined the bar in 1980, and it was my privilege that the first senior I briefed in the Supreme Court was Mr. Sorabji in 1982. And I still remember assisting him in court number 3. Justice Fazal Ali was the judge. Fast forward, I was too junior a person, so I would wish him in the corridors occasionally in the Supreme Court. And it was a pleasant surprise and indeed an honor to me that after Mr. Palkhiwala died and the Palkhiwala Memorial Trust decided to bring out one book on the important cases which Mr. Palkhiwala argued, Mr. Sorabji called me and said that, why don't you be the co-author? And that's how my association with him became pretty close in the last 20 years. he was full of memories about what happened the early days in the Bombay bar. He used to regale me with great stories about how he prepared for, how Mr. Palkhiwala prepared, how he assisted Mr. Palkhiwala. It was full of interesting anecdotes, and I'll just mention one. It seems that Mr. Palkhiwala had a particular way of appearing for cases. He would keep a proposition and have books for that particular proposition. And he was very, very tense that all the books, all the submissions had to be in perfect order. It so happened that on one day when they were arguing, the first point was over, the second was over, and then they found that for the fourth and fifth point, the books were missing. And Mr. Sorabji was worried. So he told Mr. Popat to go back to the Oberoi and get the books from the hotel. So Mr. Popat goes out and he finds to his horror that their driver is not there. But there was a taxi without a driver. So it seems that Mr. Popat got into the taxi, drove the taxi to the Oberoi, brought the books back, kept the taxi because the taxi driver also had gone away. And by the time he went to the Oberoi and came back, the driver also was not there. So this was just one of the number of stories. And I would repeatedly ask him to write a book of all these interesting anecdotes, because these are all lost in time. So, but he said that, no, I'll do it. But no, he never got on to do it. We wrote The Courtroom Genius. Late Justice Kapadia released it at the NCPA. And we thought that it will sell only 2,000-3,000 copies. But to our surprise, it is now sold about 37,000 copies. And every time I met Sorabji, he said, what about the royalties? Because of you, I've lost so much of money. You would keep chiding me and joking with me. And every time I met him, he would speak to me in Marathi and say, Kai kasa kai, and so on. My real gratitude to him was that when we started the Palkhiwala Foundation, he immediately came on the governing council. He delivered a brilliant memorial lecture. And in 2005, when we started the Nani Palkhiwala Arbitration Center, he was again on the governing council. And by a remarkable coincidence, Sri Fali Nariman gave a brilliant memorial lecture when we started the Palkhiwala Arbitration Center. He took great personal interest. We have got a very rigorous method of selecting panel of arbitrators, and he was very, very particular that only people of the highest integrity are on that particular panel. Every seminar we organized in Delhi, he would make it a point to come. And the last one was in 2020, in February. It was the last seminar. And he came, he was obviously ill, but still he came and attended the program and left a bit early. He was always a source of inspiration. As Naganand said, that he was what we can truly call a role model. And his life is something which youngsters and younger people like me should follow in his path. My condolences to the bereaved family. I had the privilege of meeting Mrs. Sorabji at functions at the IIC. Of course, I know Zia professionally. Hormaz, of course, I keep seeing his autocar all the time. And I have not had the privilege of meeting Jahangir, but I wish the family my condolences. It's going to be terrible to make good this loss. But the only consolation is that he had a full life and lived it to the fullest right till the end.
Thank you so much, Mr. Datar. Can I now request Mr. C.S. Vaidyanathan, Senior Advocate, to speak few words?
Good evening, friends at the bar and the members of the family of Mr. Soli Sorabji. Soli, that we remember, the gregarious person full of life and lived a full life, and we are here celebrating his life. His one important quality was he would make everyone whom he met feel very important. He will remember to identify some aspect of the person. If he meets me, he will talk to me about something where I was associated with him. He will make you feel really important. I think that was one of the important qualities that he had. He always had that personal touch. I met him first, as Mr. Vanagopal said, in 1979 when I came with him. And during the time when we are fighting cases against Mrs. Gandhi in Calcutta and Delhi, and therefore he used to closely monitor those cases. And after he ceased to be the law officer, those days the Delhi High Court used to sit at 10 o'clock and the Supreme Court used to sit at 10:30. So the young Soli will appear at 10 o'clock before Chief Justice Prakash Narayan and Justice Kripal in his favorite matter those days, excise. A number of matters used to come, and then he will appear very short points. And the bench was also very quick on the uptake, and then rush to the Supreme Court and then be there for item 1 in perhaps one of the courts in the Supreme Court. The energy that he had during those days was superb, and one can't forget that. I remember long conferences that we had in regard to a matter which is, for all of us, completely different. Mr. Vanugopal was there. That's the Auroville case. Mr. Nariman was, of course, was appearing on the opposite side. And so we had to expound on what is religion. And Mr. Sorabji, I mean, it was a difficult thing. And then he used to also mention about Zina's association. Therefore, in a completely different context. And as a law officer in 98 and 99, when I wanted to mention mainly about that, I was the first additional Solicitor General when Mr. Sorabji was the Attorney General. And there were long periods when he had to be away to represent the country in Geneva. And Mr. Santosh Hegde, who was the Solicitor General, he was holding the fort for him. And once Mr. Hegde also became a judge, therefore, effectively, I had to step in. Two important cases I want to mention. The access and the way he was able to take action. One is in regard to the telecom industry. The revenue sharing arrangement which revived the telecom industry in 1999 was thanks entirely to the effort taken by Soli. Of course, the government was also interested, the industry was interested, and I think otherwise, today the kind of telecom services that we have would not have happened but for the effort put in by Soli. The second that I want to mention, when the then Chief Justice took it upon himself to make recommendations of 5 judges as to become judges of the Supreme Court. And there were 1 or 2 who were certainly not persons who ought to have come to Supreme Court, and therefore the government was in a dilemma. Mr. Sorabji and the number 2 and number 3 judges had not been consulted. The question was, how do we sort this out? Because the government was finding it very difficult. So one evening when we were discussing, I suggested, why not to have a presidential reference? And the way he picked up and got the reference prepared, he went straight to the Prime Minister's residence. He had already meantime spoken to Mr. Brijesh Mishra. He had the audience with the Prime Minister, got it approved. Next morning at 10 o'clock, before the registrar, the presidential reference was there, and we were able to save the day because the then Chief Justice was following up the matter so closely that he even had a division bench trying to pressurize the appointment of the Supreme Court judges at the earliest. And therefore, we were able to save the day thanks to Soli's and his persuasive ability. Otherwise, without that, he would not have been able to put it over with the Prime Minister in such a short time, get the presidential reference formulated and sent over the next morning, and therefore we are able to stave off. I want to mention another aspect of Soli, how he was able to pick out the right kind of personnel who could assist him. And I saw it in the Bhopal case, where of course Mr. Nariman was on the opposite side, so was the attorney. When the Bhopal judgment delivered by Chief Justice Pathak was sought to be reviewed, reopened, he picked out people, 2 of whom are today sitting judges of the Supreme Court, Justice Ravindra Bhatt, Justice Kanvilkar. they were all part of the team. Mukul Mudgal, he became a Chief Justice, Raju Ramchandran, myself, M.S. Ganesh, a whole lot of them. He assembled a team and gave each one of us assignments to prepare. And I think we had an excellent, we even went to Bhopal. We visited Bhopal together. Mr. Sorabji took us over there. Therefore, I mean, these are the way he led the team and kept the cohesion and then put over the case. I think that was a very, very remarkable thing. I can go on, but I don't want to. And I would only say that he has been exceedingly kind to me. He had tremendous amount of confidence and trust in me as a law officer and gave me some of the most important opinions to assist him. And I'm ever grateful to him. And certainly, I think it is I've had association with him in the as a lawyer and in the association. And one of the other things that I wanted to mention, the way he was welcomed in Lahore when we went. Asma Jahangir had organized the conference, and he was so well known to all the judges in Pakistan and to us, of course, to the lawyers. And he was a real asset in that sense. And he was, of course, in the Commonwealth Commonwealth Law Association. He was so friendly with all the judges from England, Australia, Canada, all over. So these are some of the things that I wanted to mention. My sincere condolences to the family and thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, may I request Mr. Chandra Uday Singh, Senior Advocate, to speak few words.
Amarjit, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, sir, I can hear.
Good evening, Mr. Venugopal. Good evening, Zina, Jia, all the family members, and all the assembled, my learned senior members, Pali, and others, and all the other members of the bar. I want to, I'm just going to share two anecdotes with you, which to my mind, really showed me two facets of Soli as a human being. And I think those two anecdotes just completely encapsulated him for me. The first is what happened with Air India's air hostesses. We had, we had succeeded in doing away with the discrimination between male cabin crew and female cabin crew by a judgment of the Bombay High Court in 2001 or 2002. And that was challenged by the male cabin crew in the Supreme Court. And for some strange reason, Air India, the Union of India, everybody jumped on and filed SLPs challenging the Bombay High Court judgment. And ultimately, after a very long and grueling battle, the Supreme Court in 2003, July, I think it was, delivered what I thought was a really retrograde judgment, restoring Nargish Mirza, the 1981 judgment, which said that women are somehow lesser beings than men, and that therefore women hostesses are not entitled, women cabin crew are not entitled to the same age of retirement, the same benefits, and the right to fly, etc., on par with their male counterparts. This judgment was delivered. The Additional Solicitor General Mukul Rohde had appeared for Union of India. Every, practically every luminary in the Supreme Court bar was appearing for one party or the other. And the judgment comes, and Air India was ecstatic. Union of India was ecstatic. The male cabin crew were ecstatic. The Air Hostesses Association went to Soli, who was Attorney General, and said, "What kind of justice is this? That in the year 2003, women are treated as lesser beings than men." Soli sat down, called his steno, and dictated a scathing letter, a 2-page letter to the Prime Minister of India as Attorney General, saying that this is a complete injustice, this is a gross injustice, and notwithstanding that the Supreme Court has upheld the stand which Union of India raised before them, there is nothing to stop the Union of India from doing justice to the air hostesses who work in Air India and to put the Air India hostesses on par with Indian Airlines hostesses as well as with the male cabin crew. He pushed this, and he said that merely because we have a judgment in our favor does not mean that we are precluded as a government from doing justice. He pushed it, and the government relented. They then issued a directive to Air India, and the air hostesses, notwithstanding the victory in the Supreme Court, were put on par with the male cabin crew. This was later challenged through the Delhi High Court, etc., and the Supreme Court ultimately set the entire thing straight in 2010 with a follow-up judgment. But this, to my mind, was solely as a law officer performing the highest duty that a law officer can do, which is to put justice above his client, justice above the Union of India, justice above success in the Supreme Court. I think that was something that should be a lesson to every law officer of the land, and I'm not, there's no comparison, but certainly this is something one would hope and pray that at least on occasion, all law officers will rise to this sort of ideal. The other, which is at the other extreme, the other Soli, was when we were sitting in the Bombay High Court, and he had flown in from the Supreme Court to do a matter before the then Chief Justice of Bombay High Court. That Chief Justice was one who had come from Delhi and who was famous for something known as 2-4-6, which is the 2 weeks for return, for counter, 4 weeks for rejoinder, 6 weeks for something. And every matter would be started off and would go on for 15 minutes, then get adjourned. And there would be hundreds of matters which were part heard, but none of them would get resolved. And we were sitting there, and this was going on, and we were sitting next to each other in row 2 or row 3 of the Chief Justice's court. And suddenly Soli turns to me and said, "The highway mechanic is at it again." So I said, "Highway mechanic?" He says, "Don't you know, when he was in Delhi High Court, he used to be known as a highway mechanic because एक truck आता है, उसके नीचे घुसता है, खोल देता है उसको, and all the oil and all the parts are put into a tapeli under the engine. And then the next truck pulls up. He leaves this truck, goes and opens up that truck. And ultimately, there's a line of 25 trucks standing there, all opened up. And then he comes."
I think we have lost him. He was informing me that there is some electricity problem at his area, so maybe he got disconnected. We'll bring him in as soon as he joins again. In the meanwhile, can I now request Mr. Jaideep Gupta to speak few words?
Good evening, everybody. Members of Mr. Soli Sorabji's family and all my friends, colleagues in the bar. Coming from a legal family, I had of course heard of Mr. Soli Sorabji since my college days. But I didn't get to meet him till I moved to Delhi in 1992. It was on his advice that I approached Mr. Venugopal, who kindly agreed to allow me to work in his chambers, which to me was a life-transforming event. I cannot list the number of occasions and number of instances when Mr. Sorabji mentored me in so many ways. In his days as the Attorney General, he had handpicked a group of us, then still junior advocates, as panel counsels to assist him in the Supreme Court. We used to meet at 9 o'clock in the morning at his place. His was an unusual chamber. It wasn't like the usual chambers where the senior would be sitting behind the desk. There was a sofa, and he would comfortably put his foot up on a table and say, "So tell me." And then we would discuss the case. He would make some notes at the back of the brief, and off he would go to court to represent the Union of India. I really learnt all my indirect taxation in those couple of years. The clarity of thought with which he approached every case was a revelation and an education. In those conferences, sometimes he would jokingly say that when you are asked to write something about me in a book, please remember this incident. And I remember many of such incidents. My two favorite ones is once the book fair had started in New Delhi, and that was of course opposite the Supreme Court, as everybody knows, in the Pragati Maidan. And I said, would you come along to the book fair with us? Because we were planning to go after the day. And he said, Jaideep, there are more books around me here than I can finish in the rest of my life. So I don't think I will go to the book fair today. But on a much more serious note, he mentored us in various ways in the profession. He had sent me off to the TDSAT once, that is the Telecom Appellate Tribunal once, to represent the Union of India. And something happened in court that day which I was very, which had embarrassed me a lot, and I was very upset about it. And so were a lot of the counsels in the courtroom who had supported me in the courtroom that day. So I went to him and said, you have to find somebody else to do the running around in this case. I can't go back and appear before the tribunal. He sat me down, and for 15-20 minutes, he said why it would be wrong of me to give up that brief, how judges work, what are their pressures, how we have to approach the bench, and why it was important, particularly important, that I should carry on at that stage with the matter. And that advice is with me still today. I last met him a few months back in what must have been one of his favorite places on earth, which is the lunchroom at the India International Center. I went up to him and said that I'm sorry I haven't been able to drop in. Let this wretched COVID get over and I will come over. And he said, no, I'm receiving guests. You can come over anytime. But that was not to be, I'm afraid. It's the same pandemic which took him away from us. So much learning, so many memories stays with me. My heartfelt condolences to Zina and all the members of Mr. Sorabji's family. It is when we all go back to court, which we will someday, I'm sure, I cannot say how much I will miss him. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, can I request Mr. Krishnan Venugopal to speak few words? Can you unmute, sir? Mr. Venugopal? I'm sorry, I think I'm not able to connect with him.
Krishnan, you are on.
Yeah, I've managed to get back. Sorry.
Thank you.
Friends from the bar, Mrs. Sorabji, Zia, Hormazd, Jahangir. I have known all of you now for more than a few decades, ever since the late 70s, when Mr. Sorabji and my father were both additional solicitors general in for the Union of India in Delhi during the Janta government. That was when I first came to meet Mr. Sorabji, but I was a teenager. I never really got to know him that well. A few decades later, when I returned from abroad, however, I got to know him and got very close to him. One of the most amazing things about Mr. Sorabji, as everybody here at this gathering, a wide range of people whom one would not have expected to really know Mr. Sorabji that well. One of the amazing things about him was that he was able to make anybody and everybody from whatever background, whichever part of the country, feel like they were close to him, part of his extended legal family, as it were. And the other big thing about him, which Joydeep has talked about and which so many others have talked about, is the fact that he tapped talent wherever he found it. It didn't matter who they were, how old they were, or how young they were. He just tapped the talent and got them to do whatever he thought they were best or most capable of. I'd like to think of Mr. Sorabji as a sequoia tree in our profession, because he was a giant, extremely tall, but not a banyan that wouldn't allow anything to grow underneath it. He is singularly responsible for adding to the legal talent in this profession, whether it is Justice Uday Lalit of our Supreme Court, Mr. Harish Salve, Mr. Gopal Subramaniam, the former, both of them former Solicitors General, Mr. S. Ganesh, Mr. Mr. Haksar. There are so many important lawyers who have come from that chamber who I know of in Delhi. And I'm not even sure who all were there in Bombay. I'm pretty sure there's a very large number of them. He had this exceptional ability to spot talent and unearth their abilities and make them employ them to the best of their capabilities. I personally want to tell you a couple of stories about my interaction with Mr. Sorabji when he was Attorney General from 1998 onwards, I believe. I had just gone out on his own, and like Joydeep, he got me in on the panel and then started using me to assist him in various cases. At the same time, I was still working on a very important case for the government of India at the WTO involving quantitative restrictions on imports. We had maintained these restrictions on imports on account of balance of payments, for balance of payments reasons ever since the 1950s, when Mr. Nehru's second year, when Prime Minister Nehru's second year plan led to huge shortages of foreign exchange. And during the mid-90s, when Mr. Ashok Desai, my senior, was the AG, push came to shove, and after liberalization in 91-92, the United States and the European Union decided we must remove those quantitative restrictions because we didn't really have the kind of balance of payments problems that required them. So I happened to be working on that case from Mr. Desai's office onwards, and Mr. Sorabji refused to allow anybody else to step in and insisted that I continue with that case. He gave me every support as the Attorney General by backing up every view that I had if I could explain it to him clearly, regardless of whether the top civil servants, the Commerce Secretary, the Joint Secretary, the Ambassador to the WTO at Geneva had another view. He would back me up if I could explain to him what I was saying. And there came a point at which the panel that was deciding the case wanted us to actually negotiate with the United States. But the bureaucrats did not want to negotiate because they believed that they had the inside scoop on the diplomatic negotiations going on and refused to negotiate. So finally, when they came to us and told us that the letter had been received, they wanted Mr. Sorabji to back them up and say that there was no need to open negotiations with the United States. Whereas I was strongly of the view that if the panel was telling us that, we must explore it. And Mr. Sorabji didn't take more than a minute after the top officers explained it to him to say that when a judge tells you that you start negotiating with the other side and settle with them, there is no question of your saying you don't want to do it. You may not reach a settlement, but you have to, in good faith, go forward. I must tell you, the sad part of that story was that by the time they finally wrote back and asked and told the panel and the United States that they would like to settle, it was too late. The panel said they were going to decide it. And ultimately, we lost that case because at the WTO, a lot of it turns on diplomatic power, or rather power, international power, as opposed to the rights or wrongs of the law. And thereafter, we lost it in the appellate body as well. But that may have been a good thing because after that, the country grew much faster on account of opening up imports. So that's just one example. Another major case was where the divisional headquarters of the railways had been placed at a constituency of a minister in Bihar. I believe it was Ramvilas Paswan's constituency. And the then railway minister, Mr. Nitish Kumar, dropped by and met Mr. Sorabji at the Attorney General's residence and asked him to ensure that the divisional headquarters did not get struck down. That is, the shifting of the divisional headquarters didn't get struck down. Now, this is another mark of Mr. Sorabji's common touch, that he insisted that I join him in that living room with the minister as a young lawyer. And then I was the only lawyer present along with the Attorney General. And he spoke to him in a manner where he included me in the discussion. And it was agreed that we would go ahead and try to get the petition dismissed, Mr. Shantibhushan being on the other side. So on the fated day when it actually came up in court, unfortunately, Mr. Sorabji could not be present. He was held up in some other court. But he was very annoyed with me because I didn't allow the matter to go forward, even though the judge wanted to dismiss the matter in our favor. All the others, including the central panel lawyers who were assisting, insisted that Mr. Sorabji should be there and I should not allow it to go forward, which I duly complied with. But he was very annoyed with me, saying that I should have gone forward. If he entrusted me with a case, it was because he thought I could handle it, and there was no reason for me not to allow the judge to dismiss the case. Ultimately, of course, the case did get dismissed. And then a third famous anecdote was where in the Balco case, the famous Balco case where it was being privatized, Mr. Sorabji decided he needed more assistance appearing for the union. And he asked the central agency to send me the papers. So he wanted me for conference the next morning at 8 a.m. And by the previous night at roughly 10 p.m., I had about 6 pages out of a brief running into a few thousand pages. So I obviously couldn't read very much or understand it. And I went up to his residence and then met him and told him that I had 8 pages. And he just burst out laughing. And he never let me forget that case and that day, because every time I met him after that, he would remind me, many months later, years later, about Krishna. And you studied that Balco case really well, didn't you? That's how he would remind me about that famous episode. So this is just an instance of how Mr. Sorabji dealt with everybody, young and old, and mentored so many of us in the profession. But most of all, what I'd like to say is that I have enormous affection, had enormous affection for him. And I believed he held me in the same affection. That is all that I think I can say about him. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, may I request Mr. Amarjeet Singh Chandiok, President-elect of the Bar Association of India, to speak a few words.
Thank you, Amarjeet. Giving an opportunity to another Amarjeet now. my senior colleagues, my Prashant, everybody else, my respected Fali Saab, to me, it reminds me back into what Mr. Vaidyanathan reminded us of, that 10 o'clock used to be Delhi High Court. And I was that time a young lawyer being appointed as the additional counsel for government of Delhi. And at that time, we used to have open theaters in Delhi, open cinemas. 2 petitions were already dismissed by the bench of Justice Prakash Narayan by then. But one day, Soliji came and the court said, no, this matter would require consideration. I went on to say that Your Lordship has dismissed 2 petitions. They said this petition raises different questions of law. And matter is, notice is issued, counter, etc. He comes out, he holds my hand and says, you did a very good job, but learn one thing. This is a government's job. It is a government's lawyer. Let it go, make your point and leave it. And you would go a long way, I predict, in this profession, and wish you all the luck. That day until I think we celebrated his birthday, there was not even, at least once in a month, would we chat with each other on something or the other. That brings me to when I came to the Additional Solicitor General to the Supreme Court, and Justice Dave and Justice Deepak Mishra were the bench. Jethmalani Sahab was opposing me. We were able to get an order through. And Justice Deepak Mishra, who was the Chief Justice Delhi, knew me well, of course. So he said, Mr. Chandiok, you are very lucky today. Look at the watch. And the watch had said 12 o'clock. And I said, Lord, no, I was lucky because I came in court number 12. And I didn't know Soliji was sitting behind. And he stood up and started clapping in the court as if I had something. He says, very rarely people come up with such things that they let people laugh when they make themselves laugh also. This was Soli. And another anecdote of his is that he comes to Delhi High Court and he's not allowed because his car did not have the sticker. So he doesn't wait for me. He sends his driver to my driver, sits in that car and comes into the court and tells me in the court that I have used your car today. That car will now belong to me because I've already used it without your permission. I didn't even know what he was referring to till I came out and I came to know that he had called, his driver had called my driver, and Soliji went inside the car to the High Court only because his car did not have the sticker. And thereafter he tells me, you were responsible, I remember, that you, from what Mr. Vaidyanathan reminded me of, you were the one who used to say at the top of your voice, we should change it from 10 to 10:30. Now you have, as a president, you have prohibited us without these stickers. Now it is your duty. This car I'm going to transfer in your name so that you give me at least a sticker to come to Delhi High Court. Now, what I'm only wanting to say, I don't think that affection is today available. I don't think we seniors, we owe it to our members of the younger bar. We should show that affection, that personal touch, which is today missing. I don't think I've ever seen Soli Saab getting agitated in court. And I think that's one of the things that he taught me when he was opposing me and telling me that you leave it, make your point, that's the end of the matter. And we all need to learn from these lives. I think Mr. Arvind Datar has already pointed out the books that we go through, the judgments that we go through, the volumes after volumes you will find that which talks what submissions were made by him as an Attorney General, as an Additional Solicitor General, or even as a lawyer. I mean, I don't think there is any occasion for us to not to celebrate his life. Big examples, and I think we all need to compile all these anecdotes for our youngsters to imbibe them and probably take them forward. I wish mothers can give birth to many more Soli Sorabjis so that the bar will grow. We all will grow and we all will have his blessings. My condolence to the family, and I pray to Almighty that his soul may rest in peace and give us that, at least that zeal that he showed to us. He has been responsible for making me agree to go on the other side of the bench. And I told him, sir, my circumstances don't. He says, what is your circumstances? You have enough to go back to it. But these are few remembrances of your own, which will probably cherish in your life to come. Thank you so much. for all of you to join the bar on behalf of Bar Association of India. On behalf of every member of the bar, let me pay my condolences to the family and pray that wherever he is, he will keep blessing this bar in future also. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, may I request Mr. Shyam Devan to speak few words?
Thank you very much, Amarjit, President Prashant Kumar, Mr. F.S. Nariman, Zina, Zia, Jahangir, Hormaz, colleagues, Attorney General. I thought I'll just fill in a few gaps. The first gap I thought I'll pick up from what Janak mentioned, because he mentioned Jamshedji Kanga, and I immediately pulled out, and I have it here before me, a dinner given by the Bombay Bar Association to Sir Jamshedji Kanga on his completing 50 years at the bar. Ripon Club, Friday, 27th November, 1953. And the menu card I won't bore you with, but on top is a signature of S.J. Sorabji. There is Hochchand Advani, K.S. Cooper, Jangu Dubash, Firoz Vakil, Anil Diwan, M.H. Kanya, J.S. Khambata, Girish Munshi, S.K. Desai. So lots of memories, lots of connections. And I can quite imagine, I mean, this is, of course, 1953. By the time I joined as an intern, Soli had, of course, at Kanga, Soli had moved to Delhi, but his chamber was still very much alive. And here I want to fill up on what Jaideep mentioned, or what Krishnan mentioned, because it's an extraordinary stable, you know, starting right from Bombay. And Bombay, there was Obed Chinoy. Outstanding, absolutely. I mean, in terms of as a junior, there is Avinash Rana, Arshad Hidayatullah, of course, Ganesh was there, a whole enormous stable of juniors who sort of passed on the learning, from whom many of us learned initially. And then, of course, the very, very distinguished names which were mentioned of the huge juniors and number of juniors in and excellence in terms of the Delhi chamber. I think as a junior who worked with him, I'll just mention two things which I took away. One was simplicity and the other was clarity. And the other third thing which I learned and which I sort of impose on my chamber is things to do. I just love that. At the end of the conference, there would always be a things to do note which was dictated and which we kind of passed on. And the final thing I want to make, because we have two other extraordinarily eminent people here on the screen, Mr. F.S. Nariman and Mr. K.K. Venugopal. I think these two, along with Sorabji, at least in my eyes, propelled us in the international bar at a level where Indian lawyers were recognized, one, for their excellence, two, for their commitment to rule of law, and three, for their commitment to human rights. And I think this contribution in elevating the profile of our entire community globally rests and is in great part due to Soli and the other eminent people whom we have here. So I thought I should just share this as my tribute to this absolutely outstanding lawyer who encouraged so many of us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, may I request Ms. Zia Modi also to speak few words, since we are all talking about personal experiences. We will be enriched by what she has to talk about sir and his life, which we are not aware about. Ms. Modi, please.
Won't talk too long because I think I'll start crying, but just really wanted to thank all of you for being here and remembering Papa. It's just overwhelming for us as a family to see the affection and the respect that all of you have had for him and the small memories that each of you take away. You know, we were, I think, too close to my father to realize the giant that he was. But I remember all the dirty jokes stopped when I entered chamber number 8. And all the women was only one, which was me. And there was Obaid uncle, who's also on the call, busy teaching me how to draft my first writ petition as a young junior. I remember Daddy telling me every time I would get nervous about a matter, he would say, you say all your Baha'i prayers, but the main prayer every night you have to pray is that your senior tomorrow falls sick and you argue the matter. So I always went in with trepidation that God might actually answer my prayer, and I would have to start and take the role because the senior wasn't around. And then in the early days when Papa was seeing that I was not getting many briefs and I was getting agitated and irritated, he would say, why are you wasting your time in the chamber? Go and sit in every court. Know thy judge. Does he like employees? Does he like employers? Is he interested in landlords or does he favor tenants? Get to know your judge. If you don't know your judge, you can't argue a case properly. So I used to spend hours relaying to Daddy, Daddy, I think he thinks like this. He thinks like that. And in the early days, my father was very curious about what did the judge say? What did that judge say? And I think all of you have seen the humor, the collegiality, the warmth, the love, and the affection with which he's touched all of us. So, you know, we say bye-bye to my father physically, but I do hope that you will always, always cherish each and every memory that you have of him. Thank you so much on behalf of my mom and Jahangir and Hormaz. Jahangir, I always used to tease my father, was the real lawyer that Daddy wanted, the eldest Parsi son, and he got me instead. So Jahangir is as much of a lawyer in soul and spirit as I am, but we all miss him so much. We can't believe that, you know, it'll be a week tomorrow. So please pray for him, please pray for his soul, and thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. That was really heartful. And may I now request Miss Pinky Anand, who was neighbor of late Sri Soli Sorabji also, to speak some few words on.
Thank you, Amarjeet. Very kind of you. In fact, after hearing everybody, I only am delighted that I could hear so much. I have spent the last 40 odd years and spent time with Soli, but COVID, in fact, gave me an opportunity to spend God knows how many days and how many evenings sitting out in the garden at COVID distance, where Soli would keep his chair parked out for me separately about 8 feet out. And he would sit there along with offering coconut water and chocolate biscuits and cheese, whatever, cheese crackers. I have known him as a marathon man. I have seen him from Sundarnagar days. I've worked with him, not in thousands of briefs. I've not been his junior, but I did work with him. And I remember him scolding me, Pinky, you want to take these two theories? These are conflicting. These cannot go together. And suddenly I said, Soli, you're right. I am actually trying to bark on two trees at the same time and I can't do it. So anyway, that jazz, I remember he used to close his office for 1 week and suddenly go off for jazz. I used to see him at parties. I used to see him in London. I've seen him at theater places. I don't know how many times I met him in London. One of my last memories of him in London was when he and Meghnad Desai were each escorting each other in the House of Lords. The last call, in fact, I called Zia about a week back, 3 weeks back. And I said, Zia, are you in town? She says, why are you asking? I said, somebody said, you are here because Soli is not well. And she said, no, I'm not in town. And I called Soli again. And I said, Soli, AG was also, KKV was asking about you. Are you okay? He said, yeah, I'm fine. So I said, I'd like to come and see you. He says, I'll call you. That's the first time in his life that Soli never called me back. And within a week, of course, we saw him out. One of the greatest, grandest mentors, humanists. Of course, freedom of speech and expression and human rights is something which goes a long way. An Attorney General to be proud of and remembered and revered for the rest of history. I can only say that I will miss him tremendously. I share the grief, if I can, in any manner, with the family of Soli and all his juniors and colleagues who loved and respected and looked up to him. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Anand. May I now request the President, Bar Association of India to say a few words and also to make a presentation.
Friends, we have heard all very personal, very heartfelt tributes to Soli Saurabhji. Taking from Pinky, just one incident which I wanted to narrate but did not in the beginning. In Gold Coast in 2005 or 2006, the Law Asia conference venue was in a convention center attached to a hotel, and it was connected with a bridge. So Mr. Saurabhji reached the hotel, and then he said, "Where is the registration?" So they said, "Mr. Saurabhji, it is at the..." No, she said there was Law Asia General Secretary. She said, "It is at the Convention Center, Attorney General." So sorry. So he said, "But oh my God, my legs, I have to walk all the way back to the Convention Center now." So she offered him her shoulder and walked with him and took him back to the Convention Center for registration. And then she said, "I heard attorney had his knee surgery and it must be paining a lot. So it was a pleasure to carry such a great man, help him to there." I said, "Don't worry, notwithstanding surgery, just watching at the dance floor in today's party." And there he was, in his full form, full spirit at the dance floor. So his other thing which everybody knows and has spoken about is his love for freedom of media. And one of my good friends, who was in Times Now and later on at the starting team for Republic, got disillusioned with commercial journalism and created a model where, no advertisement, no corporate funding. And she launched her venture, The Pro. So she wanted some sort of a testimonial. And so I suggested that there is no better person to speak on media and freedom of media and what is the importance than Mr. Saurabhji. So this was perhaps one of the last interviews towards the end of last year, which Mr. Saurabhji recorded. And he is in his true elements. It is just 3.5 minutes. I will request Amarjit to play it for us all. And because no better way to celebrate Soli but to hear him speak on something he was most passionate about, apart from music.
Sure.
If you are not independent, you are sold your soul. And if you sell your soul, you sell the soul of democracy in India. Independent journalism is meant to really force people in power to account, to reveal facts which make people, the public, know what's happening, and thereafter take action against them. Independent journalism is essential to democracy. Without independent journalism, democracy is zero. Be brave. Don't give in to any influence be mentors by people who want to play one thing or the other, depending upon what they were to feel. Independence is if you are not independent, you are soul to soul. And if you send your soul, you send the soul of democracy in India.
I think, friends, there are so many other people who wish to speak, but we have the time constraint. Today, not only we have all shared our experiences, our memories, but I think his words, they mean a world to us, and we will cherish them always. With this, I thank all of you on behalf of the Bar Association of India.
All about that last bit.
And with your permission, close this tribute to one of the greatest living legends of law. Thank you very much.